Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share. I am your host. Let's jump right in. Hello. My name is Sabrina. Thank you for joining us at the Her Version podcast. This platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from learning from other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Niki. Niki is a happily married mother of 2 children living in South Florida. Yay, Florida. But it was not always that way. Niki, once a high school cheerleading captain and aspiring mathematician, took a sharp turn in her early years to being a college dropout and a homeless prostitute. Her time in the street, both in Lake Worth Beach, where she once unsuccessfully rehabbed, and in New Jersey, where her family lived, was filled mostly by short stints in jail for possession, DUI, and theft. She is not the only one, and that is why she is here speaking today. The nation's health experts report that nearly 21 million Americans, or about 1 in every 7, struggle with addiction. Only a fraction, 1 in 10, will get treatment. As a last resort, Niki's family, back in 2016, reached out to the Dr. Phil show to try and save Niki from herself. Now, looking back, Niki credits Dr. Phil's staff for putting her on the road to recovery. Her sober start was Christmas Day 2016. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome, Niki. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
My eyes started going a little cross there for a second. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so happy to have you here. You know, one of the issue, I don't want to say issues, but challenges with, a lot of people that I work with is understanding the outcome of which they want, but not necessarily knowing the initial step to actually get from where you're at, which was more than likely a little bit of a darker place than where you actually want to be. So I want to ask, from your personal experience, obviously, we just got done talking about rehab and detox and all of that. So that would be obviously probably step one. But in conjunction with that, what are some, a couple of other things that you would recommend from your own personal experience that you had to do in order to get from, a dark place to a lighter place in your personal life?
So, I mean, obviously the detox thing is like very unique to substance abuse. So like, yeah, and we touch base on that. Like, I think if someone needs medical detox, like, yeah, you need it. We don't need, we don't need people dying out here, who could be useful in the future. But for me, I know like the first thing was like totally accepting, and like, again, the honesty thing, like accepting and being honest with the fact that like this problem exists. And like, despite all evidence, like I was living on the streets for 10 years. I was like 8 months pregnant. And I was like, that was normal life to me. And like, at some point I had to like be honest with myself that like, this is not the life I want to live. Like if I don't want to change, I'm not going to. And honestly, I didn't for a long time. It was easier for me to continue to like live in the delusion that like, this is all I deserve. This is like, I can't ever be happy. So like, if I don't deserve happiness, I'm not capable of happiness, then like, I might as well numb out my existence as best I can. Like, and finally, like I had to have like a moment of like honesty and clarity with myself where I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And like, maybe something could be different. And I also am like a huge proponent of like the time and space, for healing. And like, I believe in that, in all first steps. Like if you want to make any change in any problem, like we need to create the time and the space for healing. And like in substance abuse, obviously, detox and treatment, like are a pretty easy thing to, for that. And I am definitely of the belief that like treatment doesn't, it gets me sober, but it certainly doesn't keep me sober. I went to treatment very many times unsuccessfully. But I think that there's like a time and a place for healing. And if I am not willing to, like, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? Like, it's not going to feel great, and that, like, that's still today. Like, I've had periods of growth, like, outside of treatment in my sobriety, where like I see that I need to do work. And like, how do I see that I need to do work is like, I start feeling uncomfortable with the way I'm acting as a human. Like, I don't like the way I'm showing up in my relationships. I'm not feeling comfortable about, whatever it may be. And I see that, like, there's more work to be done, right? And like, I need to accept that, like, it's not going to feel comfortable, and I need to be okay with the fact that, like, I'm going to have to take a time and some space to do some work, and it's probably not going to feel great. Like, I'm going to have to get honest about things. I'm going to have to accept responsibility for like my faults and my actions and things where like I don't want to, because I'm Niki and I'm in control of my circumstances, and I want like everybody to see, type A Niki. And like, I it's hard, but like, it's so necessary to be honest, and like to take that space and like understand and acknowledge that, like, it's not going to feel great. And that doesn't matter what the change is. It could be substance abuse, it could be mental health, like it could just be, the way I'm talking to my husband about doing chores around the house. Like, there's times in my marriage when I have not liked the way that I approach my husband about doing dishes. And like, I don't like the way I'm showing up as a wife, and I need to acknowledge that. And like, that doesn't always feel great either,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. And I love that you're mentioning everything, because it's not just, the subject of the day, it's everyday life.
Yeah,
Everyday life where we're constantly having to evolve and check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
exactly.
Um, and all the goodness that comes along with it. And that's part of what you were mentioning before, the importance of personal growth and the importance of, being able to recognize those things, um, outside of, learning about that part of being a human. There's no recognition of any of that. We're just kind of like flailing around earth,
Yeah.
not even, and that's like probably a good 70, 60 to 70% of the humans, that
Yes.
just have no idea what's going on. They're just like
Yes.
hanging out. And a very small percentage of individuals are actually doing the work to try to
Yeah.
figure out, how to manage, how to human better, as I like
Yes.
to say. How do
Oh,
you-
no, totally. Totally.
yeah. I want to ask you, what's the number one lesson you've learned about life?
That it's not all about me. And
Yeah.
like, that's a hard lesson. Like, I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud of the way I can show up in relationships today. But like, if we strip all of those things away, I have to remember that, like, I can still be helpful to other people, and I can still be useful to other people. And it doesn't matter if I own a home, if I own a car, if I have a driver's license, if I don't, if I have a job, like, the universe has shown me, like, those things can be taken away from me. And like, I need to remember that, my purpose is not to, I heard this in a TED talk last night, because I love TED talks.
I love
Like,
it.
it's not for me to leave my legacy by building a statue of myself. It's me leaving my legacy by drawing a map to the future. Like, it's not about me. I know. Oh my gosh, I love TED talks. My legacy and like my impact and how I can do the most good is by creating a better future for generations I won't even see. That's what it's all about. What can I
Yeah,
do to help this earth?
absolutely. That's great. Absolutely. I want to ask, have you ever heard of, or do you have limiting beliefs? Are you familiar with limiting beliefs? Some people aren't.
So somewhat. I mean, I'm it's like a big thing that comes up. Like, we have like reservations, we have things that like hold us back. And like, I know in like my social work world, we like call them like, our internal biases that like kind of hold us back and limit our view. And I totally do, and I still do. And I think a big one of them was this, like, this spiritual piece that like has become so, it's like the cornerstone of my life and everything. And like, I was not open to that fact that, like, anything bigger than Niki existed in this universe. Like, I was raised on like self-sufficiency, you get the job done for yourself, and like, religion and spirituality are for weak-minded people. And like, oh my gosh, how crazy is that like, that person that held that belief so strongly, is now a person that like totally, um, any self-reliance that I have, comes from like this greater belief that like I am attuned to something bigger than myself out there. And like it's crazy to me because like that was not in my realm of like possibility. Like I was not for that. When I got sober, I was like, no, I can keep myself sober. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. And like thank God I was able to like set that aside. Which I think again, alcohol and drug addiction can make you very willing to set aside some of these beliefs that you've like held on to for so long, right? This idea of like self-sufficiency and not asking for help. Crippling drug addiction really makes you more willing to put those things aside at some point.
Yes, yes, I agree. Now I want to ask what you do. I'm assuming it's something in the realm of your journey that you've been on. It's been a huge part of your life. Do you mind
Yeah.
talking to us a little bit about what you do? And
Sure. So now I actually work for the state. So I worked in the field of substance abuse specifically for a couple of years, and like I mentioned before, my niche was always moms. It's parents in general, but obviously being a person who like has carried a child, so it's very humbling to like not have that experience get and keep you sober. And my experience with DCF, and like the other systems that you come and play once your child is like taken into the system, like it is the most like it's difficult and it's hard and it's frustrating. And I saw so many opportunities for things that could be fixed in this system. And I actually now work in the child welfare system. I work with parents who have had their children removed by DCF. So like who would have thought like the biggest thing that like I thought would take me down and destroy my life has become, the most useful thing that I can offer to others is, my experience with having my child taken away from me because I couldn't stay sober. And now I get to help with those parents. And I went back to school for social work so I could continue to be more useful to them, enhancing my education with my lived experience, because like I want to be as helpful to as many people as possible, while I'm on this earth.
definitely, definitely. I love hearing that. And I think that gives so many individuals hope, who are in early sobriety, who are now sitting down and they're thinking, like, oh, fuck, like, what am I going to do now? Is there even anything that I can do?
Yeah.
And, the drastic, obvious change in your life, proving that working the steps, doing all the things and buckling down, you can be successful and you can use your story to your advantage to help others out there. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And like my
Absolutely.
experience has shown, it doesn't matter like what you come in with. I had a laundry list of legal issues. I lost my license for 7 years. I've gone through the process of like, I can pass a level 2 background check now. I got my exemption. Like
Wow.
you can do those things. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't think that that was possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just taking the steps. You have to like adult,
It's hard.
like
I
in
didn't
your
really learn to adult till I was like 30.
yeah, but that's just part of it. It's like if you started, in your addiction when you were a teenager, then you don't get out of it until 15, 20 years later. At that point, you're an adult. So
Yeah.
you have to jump from, however old you were, 15, 16, 17 or younger to all of a sudden 30.
Yeah.
That's the responsibilities of a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
They want to get a certain job, a certain career, a certain education. They have to fill out forms. They have to meet with people. They have to get dressed up. They have to like
Yeah.
do adult things. So definitely something people are capable of doing. All of us are. And I think that your story is gorgeous in showing that it's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. And like my experience and the experience of so many people around me has shown that like doesn't matter how far down. I mean, I see people that, we self-proclaim we should be dead. And like here we are sober and helping others.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. What does success mean to you?
Success means, I've said this and like I'm gonna really hopefully beat this point home. Like being the best human I can be. And like not just, for me and my life. And like I think I can be as useful as possible to as many people as possible. And like, if I'm lucky, maybe I get to be a part of change for some other people.
That's awesome.